It is early morning hours, and I'm trying to get a video done before I go to work because I have a bit to say about this particular book. This is called Killer Collections: Dark Artifacts from True Crime by Paul Gambino. And he is a collector of the bizarre himself. It didn't really say if he was true crime collector, but this gets into a really weird territory. I had picked this up thinking, oh, it's going to be some like historical stuff that people collect and different things like that from famous cases and what have you. Here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. I'm in the true crime community. I love true crime. I love reading about true crime. I love true crime podcasts. I listen to Morbid religiously. I really enjoy documentaries and stuff like that. The problem, there is a problem with the true crime community, though. I am interested in the true crime community because the part of it that I like is I like the part where the sons of bitches get caught. And that's the part that I enjoy and why I'm kind of like the true crime part. It's like coming up with a definitive ending where you catch somebody, or the particular group is trying to catch someone. Even if they're actively, it's an open case, they're trying to solve it and come to some sort of resolution for the family and for the people around them. The thing that kind of dives into an area that's really weirdly messy, it feels to me, in particular, is true crime collecting. And it's one thing when you're true crime collecting, like the one guy has stuff from the Salem witch trials and Lizzie Borden and stuff like that. And some of these people are interested in preserving certain things because they think it is historically valuable. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. The problem I had with a lot of these collectors, with a chunk of these collectors, is how much interaction they were giving to the perpetrator of the crime. There is a huge amount of stuff about them collecting art from these people and them having letters written from these criminals and all this sort of cult of celebrity a little bit. The one in particular where he said how valuable of life lessons he heard or learned from Charles Manson. Sir, I have so many problems with so much of this, because what I think these people should have happen is they should be locked away and not allowed to talk to anybody ever again. If you have spent your time on this earth hurting other people to the degree that these killers have, you don't get to have a bunch of pen pals. You don't get to have a bunch of visits and people getting your autograph and so is like an uncle to me. You don't get that because you've taken that away from a lot of other people who either trusted you or you just snatched off the street and killed, or in many cases, little kids. I have a very severe problem with a lot of these true crime collectors. Some of them I can understand where they're coming from. There's a few of them that I understood where they were coming from. The majority of the others, I did not. Because these people, what they have done deserves them to never be able to have friends again, basically. And that's what these people are doing, having interactions with them and talking to them, and it doesn't matter that they understand that these people are criminals. What matters is that you're interacting with them. That's the solid problem here. I was deeply disturbed by how much from Gerard Schaefer was in here. That man, I hope, is rotting in hell, because he was a horror show. And the fact that one of these collectors made a comment along the lines of, oh, I really regret missing out on the first first edition copy of the short stories he wrote. Those short stories, I know about this, those short stories were basically play-by-plays of what he did to the people he killed. He was an absolute monster who did not deserve to breathe on this earth. And the fact that he's mentioned in here so many times about people, like, valuing his art and his short story... It was not a short story collection. It was a collection of sick fantasies, was what it was, that got published by his girlfriend. And I have a massive problem with a lot of these people. When you are collecting crime scene weapons, when you are collecting rope that people were tied up with, that's not keeping historical stuff. If you want to keep historical stuff, give it to a museum or something along those lines, or have a museum. Don't be turning this into some sort of private collection like I collect Funko Pops. Only it's, the freezer somebody kept a body in. I have many, many problems with how the collecting is done in true crime stuff. One of these collectors is a former murderer himself, who has clearly absolutely no remorse about any of that. And that's the other thing here, too. They're collecting stuff that these killers are getting off on, basically still taunting the victims and the families of the victims in either the paintings or the artwork or whatever else they have done. You are still giving them an outlet to get their jollies, basically. And I hate that. I hate that. And the fact that there is a whole community that is doing this, I understand a lot of people have problems with the true crime community. I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with those videos where the people do their makeup and talk about true crime, and they've basically commodified crime and different things. I get that, and I understand some people are offended by that. I'm not as offended by that, depending how you approach the case. I have no problem with morbid, because those two ladies seem to have a very good grasp on, these people are monsters, I hope they all rot, and have taken things that route. When you get into this collecting stuff, there is such a foul slime to it that is associated with those people who did these things. They need to be thrown away and not ever be associated with again. And the fact that you have commodified them, you've commodified their crimes, you have turned those into money makers and coveted trading items and all this sort of stuff, is so unpleasant. So unpleasant. You're getting past the crime part. Another thing that bothered me in some of this, very, very little of the victim were mentioned. It's just, so-and-so, who they mention their whole name, killed five teenage girls. So-and-so killed 3 young boys and 1 teenage girl. There was no mention of the names of the victims much. It was a lot of as much as they said they weren't glorifying these people, when you are coveting their shoes that they were arrested in, yes, you are. Yes, you are. The true crime community, this is where the unsavory underbelly comes up a lot of times, because of the collecting factor and because of the people who just revel in certain stuff, like that Jeffrey Dahmer movie that just came on Netflix. I hear the kids at school talking about it. They don't talk about these people like they're real people. They talk about them like you talk about Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger. They talk about it like, oh yeah, it's Halloween, I'm going to go home and watch that Dahmer movie. Or the girls talking about the fact, well, I don't care, I really think he's hot, because of who they got to play. They got a conventionally attractive man to play Jeffrey Dahmer. There's no empathy for the victim. There's no disgust at what these people actually did. It's just this sort of, wow, look at what they did. Some of these people in here are so appalling. I talked about the Gerard Schaefer is so appalling. The Japanese guy who killed a woman and ate her, and then proceeded to not get any jail time because of some technicalities and became a celebrity in Japan, I have a huge problem with. I have a huge problem with those things. That we can prove that these people are horrible, horrible people, and they're being able to act like if they weren't in jail, they'd be at, like, Comic-Con. I understand keeping some of the stuff for historical stuff. I understand that. As a historian, I understand that part, and I do understand where some of them are coming from on that. But some of this stuff is of no historical value. It is of no historical value. Keeping the bindings that somebody was tied up in when they were murdered, there is no historical value in that. There is none. Keeping certain murder weapons, keeping somebody's, like, kill kit, there is no historical value in that. There's nothing of value in that. There's nothing of value in keeping the inmates' clothing. There's nothing of value in keeping their art or their letters, unless you're compiling them for a psychological study, sure. But this whole argument that they're keeping them for history, no, some of these people don't deserve to be remembered by history, period. Gerard Schaefer gets to burn in hell, and that's it. And the fact that he was brought up so much in this really, really ruffled me. And Manson, that is such a big thing. I do understand some of the fixation on him, but some of these people are not well-known serial killers except by people in the true crime community who are all acting like, oh, this is historically important. No, it's not. It's not. And that all just bothers me so much. This book bothered me so much that I don't know how to rate it. I don't know what to say. Is it interesting in a fact that there is a subculture of people that do this? Yeah, I guess so. Is it actually absolutely appalling that there's a subculture of people that do this? Also, yes. I don't know what to think about that one. This one. I don't know what to think about this book. Because this is taking stuff that has actual horrific tragedy from people who are still alive, family members who are still alive, and you're turning it into, like, this is a book of people who collect horror movie collectibles. And I don't necessarily fault the author, because there seems a little bit of stuff in here that he sometimes says that I don't know if he necessarily approves of all of this. But even the fact that some of these people didn't use their last names, or just use a pseudonym, you know what you're doing. And you say stuff like, well, I just don't believe in cancel culture. Some people should be canceled. Gerard Schaefer should be canceled. Charles Manson should be canceled. Those people canceled other people, so you get to cancel them. That's just the bottom line on it. And that is the truly nasty underbelly of true crime. It's when you're not interested in how the crime is solved. You're not interested in the people that were lost. You're not interested in catching the son of a bitch. You are just interested in the chaos. And that's unsavory. That's you're siding with the villain. And you are doing it and trying to claim historical provenance to it. And they threw around, well, there's other historical stuff that did just... Yes, but it had historical value. Again, half of this stuff in here does not have historical value. Charles Manson's signature does not have historical value. Like I said, this book had me riled. and in a very weird way, because I don't know what to think. It was interesting, but I was disgusted through most of it, and not in disgusted in a way that you're reading a book and you're like, oh, this plot is terrible, just disgusted. And this is from somebody who is involved in true crime stuff and does enjoy true crime things, and I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think about this book. So there is that. There is this. You can look at this and see for yourself and make a decision on it. But I tried to give some of these people the benefit of the doubt, but the majority of them I can't. I can't. I can't. Why would you want a buzzsaw in your house that dismembered somebody? Why would you want that? Why? I don't understand it. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this in. I don't understand it. And it's not I don't understand it as in, well, you don't understand a kink or you don't understand a certain thing that fascinates me. I don't understand it. I don't. And I don't think it should be understood. That's just the bottom line on how I feel about it.